field for exploration when I heard a window open ahead of me in my original building. I am afraid I am getting obscure, so I penned a rough sketch of the scene, as I partly saw and chiefly imagined it. It was window A that I heard open. From it I could just distinguish, through the fog, a hand protrude, and throw something out. Cigar end? The hand, a clean one with a gold signet ring, rested for an instant afterwards on the sash, and then closed the window. My geography was clear now in one respect. That window belonged to the same room as the hanging door, B, for I distinctly heard the latter open and shut again, opposite me on the other side of the building. It struck me that it might be interesting to see into that room. Play the game, I reminded myself, and retreated a few yards back on tiptoe, then turned and sauntered coolly past the window, puffing my villainous pipe, and taking a long deliberate look into the interior as I passed. The more deliberate that at the first instant I realised that nobody inside was disturbing himself about me. As I had expected, in view of the fog and the time, there was artificial light within. My mental photograph was as follows: a small room with varnished deal walls and furnished like an office. In the far right-hand corner a counting-house desk. Grimm sitting at it on a high stool, side-face to me, counting money. Opposite him, in an awkward attitude, a burly fellow in seaman's dress, holding a diver's helmet. In the middle of the room a deal table, and on it something big and black. Lolling on chairs near it, their backs to me and their faces turned towards the desk and the diver, two men, von Brüning and an older man with a bald yellow head, Dollmann's companion on the steamer beyond a doubt. On another chair, with its back actually tilted against the window, Dollmann. Such were the principal features of the scene; for details I had to make another inspection. Stooping low I crept back, quiet as a cat, till I was beneath the window, and, as I calculated, directly behind Dollmann's chair. Then with great caution I raised my head. There was only one pair of eyes in the room that I feared in the least, and that was Grimm's, who sat in profile to me, farthest away. I instantly put Dollmann's back between Grimm and me, and then made my scrutiny. As I made it, I could feel a cold sweat distilling on my forehead and tickling my spine. Not from fear or excitement, but from pure ignominy. For beyond all doubt I was present at the meeting of a bona fide salvage company. It was pay day, and the directors appeared to be taking stock of work done, that was all. Over the door was an old engraving of a two-decker under full sail, pinned on the wall a chart and the plan of a ship. Relics of the wrecked frigate abounded. On the shelf above the stove was a small pyramid of encrusted cannon balls, and supported on nails at odd places on the walls were corroded old pistols and what I took to be the remains of a sextant. In a corner of the floor sat a hoary little carronade, carriage and all. None of these things affected me so much as a pile of lumber on the floor, not firewood, but unmistakable wreck-wood, black as bog oak, still caked in places with the mud of ages. Nor was it the mere sight of this lumber that dumbfounded me. It was the fact that a fragment of it, a baulk of curved timber garnished with some massive bolts, lay on the table, and was evidently an object of earnest interest. The diver had turned, and was arguing with gestures over it. Von Brüning and Grimm were pressing another view. The diver shook his head frequently, finally shrugged his shoulders, made a salutation, and left the room. Their movements had kept me ducking my head pretty frequently, but I now grew almost reckless as to whether I was seen or not. All the weaknesses of my theory crowded on me, the arguments Davies had used at Bensersiel, Fräulein Dollmann's thoughtless talk, the ease, comparatively, with which I had reached this spot, not a barrier to cross or a lock to force, the publicity of their passage to Memmert by Dollmann, his friend, and Grimm, and now this glimpse of business-like routine. In a few moments I sank from depth to depth of skepticism. Where were my mines, torpedoes, and submarine boats? And where my imperial conspirators? Was gold, after all, at the bottom of this sordid mystery? Dollmann, after all, a commonplace criminal? The ladder of proof I had mounted tottered and shook beneath me. "Don't be a fool," said the faint voice of reason. "These are your 4 men. Wait." 2 more employees came into the room in quick succession and received wages. One looking like a fireman, the other of a superior type, the skipper of a tug, say. There was another discussion with this latter over the baulk of wreckwood, and this man, too, shrugged his shoulders. His departure appeared to end the meeting. Grimm shut up a ledger, and I shrank down on my knees, for a general shifting of chairs began. At the same time, from the other side of the building, I heard my knot of men retreating beachwards, spitting and chatting as they went. Presently someone walked across the room towards my window. I sidled away on all fours, rose and flattened myself erect against the wall, a sickening despondency on me, my intention to slink away southeast as soon as the coast was clear. But the sound that came next pricked me like an electric shock. It was the tinkle and scrape of curtain rings. Quick as thought I was back in my old position, to find my view barred by a cretonne curtain. It was in one piece, with no chink for my benefit, but it did not hang straight, bulging towards me under the pressure of something, human shoulders by the shape. Dollmann, I concluded, was still in his old place. I now was exasperated to find that I could scarcely hear a word that was said, not even by pressing my ear against the glass. It was not that the speakers were of set purpose hushing their voices. They used an ordinary tone for intimate discussion, but the glass and curtain deadened the actual words. Still I was soon able to distinguish general characteristics. Von Brüning's voice, the only one I had ever heard before, I recognised at once. It was on the left of the table, and Dollmann's I knew from his position. The third was a harsh croak, belonging to the old gentleman whom, for convenience, I shall prematurely begin to call Herr Böhme. It was too old a voice to be Grimm's; besides, it had the ring of authority, and was dealing at the moment in sharp interrogations. 3 of its sentences I caught in their entirety. "When was that?" "They went no farther?" and "Too long, out of the question." Dollmann's voice, though nearest to me, was the least audible of all. It was a dogged monotone, and what was that odd movement of the curtain at his back? Yes, his hands were behind him clutching and kneading a fold of the cretonne. "You are feeling uncomfortable, my friend," was my comment. Suddenly he threw back his head, I saw the dent of it, and spoke up so that I could not miss a word. "Very well, sir. You shall see them at supper to-night. I will ask them both." You will not be surprised to learn that I instantly looked at my watch, though it takes long to write what I have described, but the time was only 3:45. He added something about the fog, and his chair creaked. Ducking promptly, I heard the curtain rings jar, and thick as ever. "Your report, Herr Dollmann," said Böhme curtly. Dollmann left the window and moved his chair up to the table; the other 2 drew in theirs and settled themselves. "Chatham," said Dollmann, as if announcing a heading. It was an easy word to catch, rapped out sharp, and you can imagine how it startled me. "That's where you've been for the last month," I said to myself. A map crackled and I knew they were bending over it, while Dollmann explained something. But now my exasperation became acute, for not a syllable more reached me. Squatting back on my heels, I cast about for expedients. Should I steal round and try the door? Too dangerous. Climb to the roof and listen down the stovepipe? Too noisy and generally hopeless. I tried for a downward purchase on the upper half of the window, which was of the simple sort in two sections,